Okay, so Hare Krishna, dear ladies. Welcome to the September Urban Devi Sangha and Women's Discussion Group. And a very special welcome to those joining us for the first time. Please write in the chat so that we can all say hello. I promise you this is a very friendly crowd and we love to welcome people in. My name is Damodar Priya Devi Dasi, and I co-host this monthly gathering with our dear Rukmini Walker. And I would love to introduce our guest speaker for today. So Gopimata Devi Dasi, or Gopi Sandal, met her guru Srila Prabhupada when she was visiting England in 1977 and lived in a Hare Krishna ashram there for 10 years. She now lives in a Krsna Conscious farm community in Kansas, where her family has lived for the last 24 years. And Gopi opened a yoga teacher training school near there with the intention of introducing students to Bhakti, and now teaches Zoom classes in Bhakti philosophy and hosts Kirtan. So excited for her topic today, which is my way or the highway. And the quotes are intentional, everyone, because she says, we are conditioned to want people and situations to be my way. And when they're not, we may all get fussy and try to bend them to our will in either gross or subtle ways, or else we brood about it, draining our psychic energy. So how can we change these patterns that perpetuate our anxiety and dissatisfaction and distract us from unconditional love and Krsna consciousness? Well, we're about to find out, ladies, because our dear Gopimata is here to help us. Thank you so much, Gopimata, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. And I so appreciate the opportunity to share this exploration that I've been going through, and that seems like something that we all might want to delve into a little bit more. It's really about Vaishnava qualities, or the qualities that we try to develop in Bhakti. So, and the Bhakti path is one that leads to a very beautiful world, where very kind and considerate and loving people are always experiencing loving exchanges. So we're in a process of transitioning from this world, which is full of dissension and conflict, and we're kind of conditioned in a certain way, although we're hoping to become the best version of ourselves. So this process of Bhakti offers us practices, and it offers us possibilities for serving one another, for serving God, and we're recommended to try to develop the qualities of a saintly person. And so in one of Srila Prabhupada's books, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he lists several qualities that are there in a pure devotee, a perfected saintly being. So just for inspiration, I'll mention those. They are merciful, they're not defiant, they're truthful, equal to everyone, faultless, magnanimous, clean, inside and out, aware that everything belongs to Krishna. They are a performer of welfare work for everyone. They're peaceful, they're surrendered to God, desireless, indifferent to material acquisitions, fixed in God consciousness, completely in control of bad qualities, moderate in eating, not obsessed with material things, and very respectful to others. And so the the devotees of Krishna are like gradually finding a way to balance what we sometimes call animal propensities. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is one of them. So we want in our relationship with the Supreme Being to become really aligned and to be to have a desire to please God. That's like the intention that informs everything else in our spiritual practice. So, and all parts of God are also lovable. And so we want to try to come to a place of seeing everyone as God sees them, with unconditional love, right? And if for instance we were very fond of someone, but we were very rude to their children or made their children sad, then it wouldn't be very pleasing to that person. So, Krishna wants us to be very considerate and respectful and kind to all his parts and parcels. So the people who are closest to us are often, our biggest mirrors, our challenges, because they may push our buttons, they may say things that can make us have some kind of knee-jerk reaction. We want to be reactive, to something that they might say that's in the mode of passion or darkness sometimes. And so when someone speaks in a way that's disagreeable to us, it can be quite challenging. And we might just have this urge to fix them, to change them, to make them be my way, right? So I have my particular opinions and my particular perspective and my particular way of doing things. So can I even change myself? Like, how hard is it if I want to change qualities in myself? I may have a habit that I'm trying to change, and it doesn't happen right away. It's quite a process. So, how is it that we can change other people? It's not so easy, maybe never possible. And but I find that those kinds of thoughts and anxieties about others may take up a lot of space in our psyche. We may be, brooding about it, thinking, if they would just, or why didn't they, or how could they, or so it becomes like about why isn't the external world acting the way I want it to, right? And that is something that really gives our power away, because we can't fix everything. We can't fix other people necessarily. And so what can I fix? Myself. I can work on adjusting my own qualities. So can I find a way to agree to disagree? Like, even though they're saying something, it's just wrong. How could they do that? How could they say that? And it may even be something, harmful or truly hurtful. However, if somehow or other I can just let them have that and be centered within myself, but listen to what they have to say, and not that I agree with them, but I could let them know that, oh, I hear you. I understand that this is important to you, that you really believe this, or that you really, this is your understanding. And so it doesn't mean that I'm saying you're right? But it means that I'm saying, I get it. This is very important to you. This is really your opinion. This is, you strongly believe this, right? And so it's, they may have room to improve. They may be doing something even wrong, but we can understand that Krishna is going to fix that in the long run. It's not actually my job. So if there is some big problem, it may be that we have to protect innocent people, or we need to set boundaries for myself. And in the practice, there's a practice called nonviolent communication. That there's a nice book by Marshall Rosenberg that describes the process of that he uses in the practice of mediation. And he says that we can first listen carefully to that person, and that we can then repeat back to them exactly what we heard them say in some different words. And then, we can ask them for a chance to express our views. And in that expression, that we seriously avoid using judgmental words, that, rather than saying, because you did this really stupid thing, or because, you're such a this or that, but to just try to express in I statements what I feel and what I experience. And then we may have an opportunity to ask for something, that would you be willing to make this change that would help me, because I would feel better if that happened. And then knowing that they may say, no, I'm not willing to do that. And then we might have to just make our own choice about, well, okay, I might have to make some changes in this relationship. Perhaps I need more space. Perhaps I need to, whatever it is. So, and I won't get into that whole process. It's a big study, but very, very valuable, and helps to keep it, in that realm of working on myself and what I am in control of, rather than trying to make somebody else change. So it's very difficult to understand why another person comes to the point of thinking the way that they are, that may seem just wrong. Like, very difficult for me to relate to. But how can we know? Because, we are all on a long journey. We're a soul on a journey. And I'm wearing this costume now. In a previous life, I wore a different costume. So the same goes for every single person, that we may know a certain amount about them in this lifetime, but we don't know in their previous lifetime. Some things may have happened to them that brought about these reasons, some deep fear, or some deep feeling of inadequacy, or some deep feeling of anxiety, or a need to try to protect themselves in a certain way, right? So there is a nice Native American story about a village where they had gone through some difficulties, and food storage was low. And one woman began sneaking into her neighbor's food storage and stealing corn and stealing, vegetables. And there was another lady who noticed this, and she was like, that rascal. And she began to go to her various friends and gossip about her. Did you know this person is stealing? How rude, how mean, how could you do that to us? Something must be done. And so it came to be known by the matriarch of the tribe, who talked to them both. And she said, what's going on here? And the lady who was stealing said, I'm so sorry. In last year, when we had the drought, 2 of my children died of starvation. And my 2 remaining children have very little. I don't get any help I haven't got a husband to provide for us anymore. And we're desperate. And I just didn't know what else to do. And the lady who had gossiped about her said, oh my gosh, I never thought, that maybe something like this was going on. And the matriarch of the tribe said, all right, I would like you, the lady who was stealing, to give back to everyone that you stole from. Somehow or other, find some provisions for them. And she said to the lady who was gossiping, I want you for a whole year to not speak to anyone. And so they knew that they had to follow this, and and they did. And after a year, when they came back, she said, well, what have you learned? And the lady who had been stealing said, oh my gosh, I just had no realization that everybody's suffering. Everybody is experiencing so much trouble in their lives. And they're just practically as desperate as I was. And she asked the lady who hadn't spoken for a whole year what she had learned. And she said, I learned how to listen. I learned that, my opinion wasn't necessarily as important as being able to hear what other people are going through. And so yeah, I heard that a long time ago from a beautiful book about Native American history and stories, and so. And they often say in that tradition, don't judge a person until you walked in their moccasins for 2 miles. So, but it can be difficult, right? When you're experiencing that a person that you're in conflict who seems to be wrong, maybe you didn't even do something that they are accusing you of, and they're very angry about it, and you feel like, I just need to defend myself, but they may not be able to hear you in that state because they're still processing. So everybody deeply wants to be loved and accepted, and so when they feel heard, then they experience that feeling of love and acceptance. And it's interesting that even, we may speak words to a person to try to convince them or to comfort them, but really it all begins with our thoughts, right? So if I'm saying one thing, but I'm thinking another, if I'm saying I'm sorry, but I'm thinking you're just wrong and how stupid, then they actually feel that. Everyone is psychic. And so, we may even fool them, but Krishna knows. Krishna is not fooled. And so our challenge is, how can I cultivate these thoughts of kindness and nonviolence for everyone? How can I forgive everyone? And how can I, even if they're throwing, angry balls to my heart, can I, instead of throwing that angry ball back at them, can I throw a white, ball of loving light back to them? Can I, really seriously work on this process of transformation, which, is very, it changes, it's a change in our heart. It will help to change their hearts. And it actually is very infectious and spreads to the community, right? So our thoughts are very, very powerful. And ultimately, this process begins with the way we think of ourselves and see ourselves. So, I am conditioned to think of myself as that I am my body, I am my mind, I am my opinions, I am my mistakes, I am my, did I say problems? Through the process of spiritual awakening, we begin to see, oh, actually, I'm none of those things. I am an eternal spiritual being with an eternal loving relationship with God. So, can I live in gratitude with that realization that how can I see myself as Krishna sees me? Krishna, God, is not judgmental or thinking that we've made mistakes or that we're a bad person, or no. Krishna just loves us and just wants us to remember our spiritual nature and love him back. So I can remember that I'm a pure, loving, beautiful soul with a relationship with the source of all power, all beauty, all strength, all fame, all renunciation. Like that, I can begin to even use affirmations like, I accept myself exactly as I am right now. So that's such a good starting point. Even, when it's hard, for those times that it's hard, to remember that I am a spirit soul. I'm not this vehicle that I'm traveling in. And just remember, I'm an eternal spirit soul. I love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. And when I can begin to have those feelings about myself, it's becomes evident to other people that we're feeling that way about them as well. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm not holding resentment. I'm not thinking I'll never improve. I'll never, get over this. I'm thinking, this is a fresh start. I am a bright spirit soul. And we can, pray to the Lord to ask us to help us to be kind. Now, I see that there's a message in the chat board, and should we go ahead and address those, or do you want me to wait a little?
We can wait until the end, or when we're doing questions and answers, but it is something related to right now. Just Hopi was sharing that it's really hard for her to see others as Krishna sees them, especially when they have caused her hurt or pain.
Right.
So I don't know if you'll be addressing that at some point.
Right. That's a really good point. And so I can just say, if we can begin to see that they are acting in an inappropriate way, perhaps because of their own suffering, it may have nothing to do with me, but they're experiencing some kind of misery that I don't understand where it began. They may be saying it's because of me or because of someone else, but bottom line is they are experiencing deep suffering in this material world. So I know that I make mistakes and I have had suffering. Is there a way that I can just recognize that, poor thing, they're going through this. It's not my responsibility, but I can, I can only try to be compassionate for them. Well, I just wanted to to read some. How many minutes do we have left here?
We still have 20 minutes. Yeah, you still have time. 20 minutes until breakout groups. Sorry, everyone, not to freak anybody out. We have 20 minutes until breakout groups, but we still have an hour left of our Sangha.
So there is a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Says, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. What? So it's so far from our way of thinking in this world, right? If we were exposed to any media, it's just all about how are we going to get revenge, how to defend ourselves, and but also Srila Prabhupada mentions in the commentary on that verse, he says the person this is talking about knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc., as far as such things are concerned in personal affairs. The devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, so others, then the devotee may take strong action. So it's kind of the turning the other cheek idea. So and then another verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:22-61, he says, "O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality and material life is very strong, and therefore it's very difficult, even for learned men, to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees, who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet, are able to tolerate such offenses." And then 1848, the same Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing. Oh, no, I missed that one. The great pure devotee, Maharaj Parikshit, was cursed by a Brahmin's son to die from the bite of a snake bird. He could have tried to defend himself, or he's such a nice devotee. He could have asked Krishna to please help him and save him. But instead, he took it as an opportunity to move towards death with pure consciousness, like to prepare to move on to his next phase, to transition into his next phase. So yeah, these are these are descriptions of pure saints, and so it may seem very far away from our realm, but we can practice in so many opportunities that come to us in life. So often we experience some kind of obstacle like this, and most every trial in life is coming from a person, from relationships. Like there are many things that, suffering from natural disturbances, suffering from our health, and so many things. But so many anxieties and disturbances are about our relationships. So those disturbances that come to us are not an accident. You know, we have a tendency to think that I'm going down the road, I'm minding my own business, I'm on my journey, everything's great, and then some kind of dragon appears on the road in front of us, and it's blowing fire, and it has stinky breath, and we're like, why are you here? I didn't ask to have battle, but then there they are. And so how can I see that this is not an accident? This is not an obstacle. This is an opportunity. Actually, Krishna is my personal trainer and has brought this situation into my life at exactly the right moment so that I can do this practice, so that I can learn to, rather than running away, which, oh my gosh, I was talking to somebody recently who said, yeah, I'm trying to get over my bad habits. I noticed that every time I want to smoke a cigarette, if I just pause for a moment, I realize that there's something I'm avoiding. And so if I just take a minute to let that soak in, what is it that I'm avoiding? Then I can get through it. So that dragon is on, in our path. And rather than just running away, rather than, I can breathe. And how can I see that, oh my gosh, this dragon has needs. They're suffering. They're so angry, or they're so, distraught in some way. How can I empathize with them? And is there a way that I can send love to their heart? Heard some amazing stories about that process. That there was one woman who was kidnapped, and by a scary guy, and she was being held at gunpoint in her bathroom, and she thought, okay, I guess this is it. I guess I'm going to die. They have their agenda, and I don't know why, and I don't know why I'm here with them. But what she chose to do was her spiritual practice of sending love to the heart of that person and saying, you must be going through a lot now. And somehow or other, it diffused the situation entirely. And they started crying. Their captor started crying and saying, oh my God, lady, I don't know what came over me. So it's kind of, that's like an extreme example, but practically with everyone, every attacker, every just, kind of subtle aggressor, every situation where we feel that I must defend myself, they're going through something themselves. So how can I flip it instead of you know, trying to defend myself? How can I somehow empathize with them? And then with, you know, in some situations, even you do that and you say, I'm so sorry, or I didn't intend to hurt you. They must just keep screaming at you. And so that's really hard. But still in all, there they are, you know, like having to go through all this. And maybe in time, things will settle. The important thing is that we cultivate, you know, within ourselves a desire, an intention for unconditional love and kindness, you know, just somehow or other. In all the spiritual traditions, this nonviolence is there. Although sometimes violence is used to protect, right? There are reasons that violence is used, but for myself, I'm just trying to lighten my load. So rather than focusing so much on another person's unpleasant qualities, or whether they're, you know, whether it's justified or not, how can I lighten my load instead of, you know, holding like hot coals of resentment in my hand, waiting to throw at that person? How can I just let it go and let them be and let them learn what they're trying to learn? But I don't have to take it on myself. I can choose to have an intention of loving kindness. So, So this is a very deep process, this bhakti process. You know, we have the sadhana, we practice meditation, chanting on God's names, developing deep intention for love, but also this internal process of self-reflection is very, very powerful, deep process that needs to go along with that. There's a beautiful book that that helped me recently. It's called The False Ego by Devi, and she addresses many of these ways that that we may experience my kind of knee-jerk reaction for defending or for getting myself more embroiled in trouble rather than extricating myself. So it's a process of transformation of the heart. So I'm really interested to hear from you guys. And I know that there are, you know, it's like we begin to think of some situations where, well, maybe this wouldn't work in this situation, or maybe I don't understand how to apply that in certain situations, or so. So would it be okay if we go ahead and start that?
Yeah, I think it's always lovely when we have extra time in breakout groups. Everybody gets more time to connect and chat with each other. So before we pause the recording for that, though, did you want to go over what the reflection questions are, just so that those who will be watching the recording, if they want to kind of do this on their own?
Yeah, so well, basically, I was thinking that if we just try to bring to mind one or two situations where we have experienced this in our own life. So whether, an experience of being, in conflict, or something coming up with another person. It could be, a big problem, or it could be, very small things that are just like nagging issues that go on in my relationship with the person I'm with all the time. So, and to try to bring that to mind and consider just remember, how does that make me feel when I'm in that situation? And then, what would it look like if, or how would it be if I adjusted, if I tweaked that situation, with considering these thoughts that we've just been looking at, and then how that would feel afterwards.
Great. Thank you so much, Gopimata, for explaining that. And I also put it in our chat and in WhatsApp. For those who are in the groups, you'll be able to continue seeing that when you're in the group. So I'm going to pause the recording here. We'll be right back, YouTube. Okay, so Hare Krishna. Welcome back, everyone. And hello again to our YouTube viewers. So this is our reflections and questions and answers section. So this is where we'll be sharing anything that came up with the groups, any challenges, anything that inspired you. And also, if you have any direct questions for Gopimata, this is a great time to do that as well. And always leading us off with this is our dear Rukmini. So Rukmini, would you like to start us off, please?
Yes, I would like to, but I would like to say that Sharmila agreed to to say something. So rather than me, always Sharmila, and Surabhi Govinda also had agreed to say something. So I can circle back, but maybe Sharmila.
Haribo. Again, this is a wonderful topic, and this is something that we come across in everyday situations. So thank you so much. I'd like to thank everyone for this wonderful topic. So I was telling in our group to Rukmini ji as well, Surabhi Devi Dasi ji, that at work on Thursday, I had a similar situation. One of my, it was a status meeting, and I have to collect status as a technical lead for the project. So I was collecting statuses from various folks, and one of them got very irritated. He was not happy that we were asking I was asking the status of the work. So he messaged, unfortunately, in the whole group, saying that I'm trying to stay calm, but every time you're saying we're working on it, but people want to ask our statuses. But so I saw the message, and it kind of actually shook me. It really, I had to kind of calm myself down immediately, because of the fact that this was a status meeting, and as project managers or the technical leads, we are supposed to collect status and report out to our higher ups. So again, I was saying that this, what the speaker said today was a beautiful point from Krsna Consciousness, that we need to start empathizing with others. We need to put ourselves in their shoes, and that will kind of really make the situation kind of come from a higher consciousness of Krsna Consciousness. So I told him, and by Krishna's grace, I was able to do that. I said, yes, I have been a developer before, and I completely understand where you're coming from. And people ask for statuses, we kind of say, yeah, we are working on it. But I understand where you're coming from, but unfortunately, I, as a technical lead, I have to report to my higher ups where the project is progressing and how we are progressing. And if there are any roadblocks, I have to report up. So, I understand that you're working on it, and I completely empathize with you being a developer myself. So that kind of really calmed down, and he said, yes, that's right. And we, as you know, we work so hard with us developers, and so empathizing and listening and putting ourselves in others' shoes, I think really brings in a lot of value when there are dragons to fight, I would say. And we had a very good discussion, and Surabhi Devi Dasi had good points about getting the bigger picture, and I'll let her speak about it. Haribo.
Haribo, thank you.
Yes. Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah, so we carried on with this topic, and there was this idea of stepping outside that Gopi Sandal was talking about, sort of stepping outside ourselves when we have these dragons that approach us. And one method that sort of was discussed was about zooming out. Zooming out really means, helping the other person see maybe the bigger picture. In this case, it could be they're dwelling on what is so pertinent to them in that matter, but then there's these other parties and there's yourself, helping them understand that bigger picture. Of course, there's some flaws to that. They might feel like they're being dismissed because suddenly they're not being heard. So we went back to talking about how to just be more empathetic, listening and making sure they know that they were heard, as well as having to hear other parties as well. So that was one point. Then the other thing we spoke about was we talked about not feeding the demons and trying to stay in that spot. So one of the examples I think Rukmini Prabhu brought up was we might be in a situation where somebody's, when we're trying to hear somebody, everybody's got a different opinion. We've got different thoughts. They come from different places with perhaps a lot of baggage as well, and how to deal with that situation. And that's pretty complex. I think for me, like understanding that you can be empathetic to everybody and then you've got other things to think about and how to then progress. I was talking about, like, for me, I try to go to this neutral place, try and neutralize and take something to a more sort of plain level and out of any kind of anybody's, things that drive passion up, and try and put them into more like a sattvic mode where I can. And I think that that can be hard too, because sometimes you don't know what brings them to that place, because it can set them the other way, because maybe you don't know the person that well. If you know the person well, that's an easier thing to do, like, perhaps your husband or your children. But if it's somebody you don't know, then you can be misinterpreted. So we talked about that, and we just wondered if you had anything to add on those fronts, Gopi Sandal.
Oh, I'm on mute. Can you hear me? Yeah, those are really, really nice observations. And I like what you said about getting perspective, and that's such a nice idea of neutralizing the situation, because so often in a moment of conflict, that other person may have their emotions are escalating. They are maybe just like totally out of control, and they're becoming more and more fearful and more anxiety. If you in some way can distract them, it's like I used to do that with my toddlers. If they were getting really naughty, instead of saying, "Don't do that," I would try saying, "Oh, look, there's a giraffe outside," or something like that. And they would become just like on a different track. And so of course, you want the person to feel like you're taking them seriously, not a giraffe out the window. But I think that's a nice idea, to just let them feel that you're with them on some level of friendship, or yeah.
Can you give us more tips on neutralizing, please?
Neutralizing.
Not that, so with an adult, you can't say there's a giraffe out the window. You can't say that to your husband or your person at work. But other tips on, everybody's so charged with their own opinion. So more tips on neutralizing. we zoom out, but sometimes someone might feel dismissed. So how to neutralize and bring down the temperature?
Right. I mean, you'll think this is crazy, but when I was younger, and I remember if my husband was acting really like irritated about something, sometimes I would just like grab him and try to wrestle with him.
I'm gonna try that.
Or make him laugh, try to find some way. Of course, that's a person that you know very well. But if it's somebody that yeah, I don't know. Does anybody else have an idea of ways, you know, if you don't know that person super well, how could you do that?
I wonder if it would just help to just ask questions, you know, so to go into that state of curiosity, so that you have the opportunity of making them feel heard because you're asking them questions. And as long as, like you said, if you're doing it with that energy in your heart, that it's like, I'm genuinely curious and really want to know you, as opposed to just like asking questions in an attacking way, they'll feel that. Is that possible?
Exactly. Oh, that's so nice.
And Jai Radhika stuck a finger in the air, I saw.
Yeah, so what Gopi has been really good with me. So I kind of, my natural language growing up was sarcasm, which I was very fluent in, and brought it with me to the devotee community and not realizing really what I was doing. But I would have conversations, and of course, sometimes that's my natural response. And Gopi would just look at me and go, ouch. Yeah, enough to give me a pause. This is very valuable, Gopi. I know you're laughing, but it's been hugely valuable to me because it gives me a pause and kind of reflect on what I just said, and then think about, is that what I really meant, and then rearrange it. So you have to have somebody in that instance that's willing to do the work and willing to look at what they're doing. If somebody's attacking you, it wouldn't work as probably as well. But it's somebody that you kind of know, that's been hugely valuable to me. Thank you, Gopi.
Thank you, Jai Radhika. And we actually have a question in the chat from Poppy that maybe is relevant to this conversation as well, because she's kind of asking this in terms of real life. So she's saying, at what point should one decide to let go of the person who doesn't understand the value of nonviolent communication and unwilling to change, or perhaps incapable of change? At what point do I stop trying and hand it over to Krishna for resolution? At what point would I know I'm handing over the issues to Krishna without giving it my best? And what is the balance or middle ground when it comes to fighting my battle versus surrendering to Krishna for resolution? She says, I struggle to understand how much to continue to fight and try, and when to hand it over to Krishna.
Nice. Well, yeah, I think that, you know, we can try to just in an honest way, you know, to relate to the person, and if they're just refusing, you know, then it's not a bad thing to set a boundary by saying, you know, can I would like to talk when you're able to be kind and respectful. Otherwise, you know, it's not working very well. Or you know, there's some people they aren't able to do that. You know, there are so many different personality traits that and like I say, we don't understand how could they be so fixed in something that doesn't work so badly. But it happens, and so yeah, and it's a fine edge between being, you know, willing to reciprocate and being willing to be abused. So we have to assess, you know, where is that edge? When am I starting to feel like, okay, this really is emotional abuse, and this won't be good for either one of us. So then you have to, you know, then the kshatriya, the you know, the fighter in you has to be the the fighter that says, I'm protecting myself from abuse by stepping outside the circle, or by yeah. So what, anybody else have an insight into this?
I see Ananda has her hand up. I don't know. Do you want to share on this, Ananda? Or do you have another question to develop it?
It's another question.
Oh, okay.
Carmela, you should have.
Sharmila, did you have something to answer on this?
Yeah, I think that's also a very good question. So at what point is kind of is what I have seen in the past is that when we have exhausted all modes of communications. So for example, we tried talking, and if kind of we hit a roadblock, there are other modes of communication, maybe a text message, because some folks, I feel that more than talking a direct conversation, they're more, adapt to written communication. So sometimes other modes of communications might help ease. And even, as if everything fails, then we know that we have tried our best to come to that, come our way, like in a sense we have tried our best to make progress in this, and so we leave it up to Krishna at the end, I guess. Haribol.
Thank you, Sharmila. Rukmini, did you want to comment on this before we move on to the next question?
No, I'm just eager to hear from Ananda.
Ananda, please go ahead and share.
Haribol, Radhe Radhe.
Jai Shri Radhe.
So we've spent an awful lot of time discussing how to engage with those who are exhibiting behaviors that are less than peaceful. I, in this lifetime, was raised in a military home, and communication in that home was quite intense and focused and sharp. And thusly, my methods of communication were intense and sharp, which in a professional capacity were quite advantageous at times. In a devotee community, not so much. And I personally have exhibited speech that is less than compassionate or pointed or accusatory, when every single one of us on this path is just trying our best. And so my question to you, to these esteemed, beautiful Vaishnavis, is how to make amends within our own community, within ourselves, between ourselves. Of course, the answer is do better. Learn to speak in a way that is more loving. Learn to speak in a way where Krishna is acknowledged on the other side of the communication. Of course, that is the answer, but there are feelings and all of this conditioning in between those steps. And so any advice you have in that realm would be appreciated. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, sometimes it gets outside of the realm of being able to use our words or use actions to change things. But if it begins with our mind, with our thoughts, that then that is always going to manifest in a beautiful way in time. And so just to have first of all, we can say, I forgive myself for whatever, I may have done or said in this life or in a previous life that's caused offense to this person, so that they are, acting in a way that's difficult. And I forgive them for whatever offense I felt. And then, the mind is a little bit freed up to just send them good wishes, that it's mixed up with some fears and some anger sometimes, but then if we're able to just imagine good things coming to them and imagine, and hold strongly that my intention is to be, to transform my heart into pure goodness through this process, and it's happening now. And I choose to send love to the heart of this person. I choose to forgive myself for any mistakes that I may have made in the past, and so be it. Anything else?
Yes, we have time for one more question or reflection before our dear Rukmini will share what's coming up for next month. So does anybody have any questions or reflections?
Just raised her hand.
Can I
Who
just say
does?
something?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Just the other day, I heard that in situations like that, you try and stay calm as much as possible, because then you won't take the other person's vibrations. And I've never heard of that. I thought, this is so good. Yes, what you do is you don't take their vibration. And if you stay in that sattvic way, then you're not going to. But yeah, I thought that was pretty powerful.
Really?
Can you explain that again? Just I didn't quite catch it. So it's not, you're making the point that it's not enough to Deepa. It's not enough to just, can you just restate that a little bit for me? Because I was a little slow.
It's just about staying calm yourself. If you don't stay, then you will pick the other person's vibrations, and then you'll join in with that vibration, and you're more likely to become angry, and that, rather than stay detached, where you can, the good stuff, to keep the good stuff with you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Deepa. And Rasa Dali has her hand up. You just have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, we have a power failure here, so I was just struggling a little. So I just wanted to answer Ananda and her question about having dealt with devotees or just dealing in life generally a little sharp or harshly. I tend to be extremely straightforward as well. I just feel it just saves a lot of time. We don't have to guess where somebody's coming from. And sometimes it has been misunderstood as being rude or curt. So, and it has been very hurtful to be misunderstood like that over the years. But what I find is that first we have to forgive ourselves and understand that we are coming from our personal conditioning, as Ananda pointed out. And that's very hard to get rid of, especially if it's since we've been raised in a particular way. So it's our prarabdha karma, and that is the last thing to go. So we're going to be...
Could you just translate the word prarabdha so that people who don't know what that means? What is prarabdha karma?
It's manifest karma. So our bodies, our tendencies, personalities, different things, different aspects of what we have already manifest in our lives. So like Ananda's childhood, her home, the military, that would be her prarabdha karma. So with that came a certain set of the way she speaks. And I come from a family where I'm the youngest, and, I've got to fight to be heard. So I also tend to be very... So it's all prarabdha karma, and it shapes us in a certain way. And we have to struggle with that a little longer in our lives, because it only goes when you leave the body, really. And I think that forgiving yourself first for those things that can be destructive to other people is very important. almost essential, because when you forgive yourself and show a bit of kindness towards yourself for your harshness, then you can extend that more to other people. You can start to deal more kindly and more compassionately. So,
Nice.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Rasapali, Devi Dasi. And we are coming up on the end of our Urban Devi Sangha. I know it goes by so quickly, everyone. It just runs through our time. So, Gopimata, we do have some other questions that we won't have time to address right now. And I was just wondering if you could share either in the chat or you could send it to me later, and I could send it in our WhatsApp groups of how some of the ladies could continue to maybe follow up a conversation with you or reach out to you after this chat.
And yeah, if you want to email, it's Gopi Sandal 108@gmail.com. GOPISANDAL 108. Or what's another way? I mean, we could set up a Zoom call like this if you want. I have an address, a number that they can contact me on, but or you can use my phone number is
This is getting recorded, so let's not put your phone number out into YouTube land. Sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but just for security reasons, this gets watched by like lots and lots of people, some who may not, you may not want to have them number, but we could always share that via the WhatsApp groups, which are a little bit more
okay.
Yeah, right. So thank you so much. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. So now thank you so much again, Gopimata, for this sharing. As you can tell by, I'll share some of the chat with you afterwards. It's like blowing up. So people have so many thoughtful and beautiful questions because of this. So it's now time for our dear Rukmini Walker to give us a sneak peek into next month.
Well, thank you so much, Gopi. It's amazing how your intentional love has really touched everyone's hearts. So thank you so much. This was very precious for me, and I think everyone. So next month, which is, wait, let me look up when it's October next, right? So in October, if you want to note it on your calendar, we're having our Urban Devi Sangha on October 29th, which is also a Sunday toward the end of October. And our guest speaker will be Leela Devi Dasi from Alachua, Florida, who is a very dear friend of Damodar Priya. And she'll be speaking about ways of wisdom from the seed to the harvest, how we can acquire wisdom through joys or challenges that are often hard won, and just exploring the themes of acquiring and cultivating wisdom, and how to lovingly reap our harvest, and how to appropriately share its abundance based on the traditions of Bhakti Yoga. So I think that's a beautiful topic. And so we'll look forward to hearing from wonderful Leela Devi Dasi next month. Thank you all so much for being here. Please join the Urban Devi WhatsApp group, so then you'll get the announcements. And thank you for being here, all of you. Wonderful to see the faces from the great state of Kansas.
Thank you, Rukmini, for doing all this and bringing us together, and your devotion to Hare Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada.
Wonderful to have you. Thank you, my dear precious sister.